Alright everybody, how are we doing today? Time to cover something a little more local for the American folks out there. Okay, so, from Ruptly, Cardi B's interview with Bernie Sanders is more real than anything you'll find in mainstream media. Well, just about anything would be more real than that garbage. An old white male socialist and a young black female rapper walk into a nail bar. It sounds like the start of a bad joke. What ensues is a more honest talk about the issues facing Americans than mainstream media ever produces. It's easy to make fun of Cardi B interviewing Bernie Sanders at a nail salon in Detroit on optics. It is somewhat entertaining, and at first glance, they are an odd pair. That goes without saying. Fox News had a field day with the visual. One contributor mused that Bernie has the stripper vote locked down. Conservatives claim it makes no sense for the wealthy rapper to complain about the government is doing with her effing tax money, while supporting higher taxes as socialist for president. Yeah, it really doesn't make sense. You know, unless, you can realize that some people actually have the talent to be able to basically sit down and talk with almost anybody. I can do it too. I actually talk with all kinds of people on discords and other forms of messaging about all kinds of controversial topics, and we always make an odd pair. We're human beings at the end of the day, for crying out loud. We can sit down, we can talk about this stuff with civility, with honesty and integrity. Nonetheless, it is unthinkable at Fox News that a rich and famous American might be happy to pay high taxes if that revenue is going toward useful public services like healthcare and education. It's easier to assume that a young black entertainer couldn't possibly have thought this through. The rapper went viral with a rant about taxes last year, demanding receipts from the government. But it takes all of 2 minutes to decipher that her complaint is not with high taxes per se, it's where that money is going. Yeah, you could have asked them to be honest about where it's going, but they'll never deliver on that point. You know they won't. Nonetheless, what we are going to do about the wages in America, Cardi asked Bernie. Now Bernie responds, "Me as a New Yorker, not now, but when I was not famous, I just felt like no matter how many jobs I get, I wasn't able to make ends meet. I wasn't able to pay my rent, get transportation, and eat." When do you ever hear a sentence like that on CNN, MSNBC, or Fox News? The answer is almost never, because establishment media personalities care more about the latest Russia conspiracy theory than they do about regular people. The reason for that is simple. They can't relate. The millionaires who control the narrative on a channel like CNN have a totally skewed perception of what normal working people care about. Hint, it's not Russia or constant panel debates about whether or not Donald Trump is a racist. No one cares about the specifics of the Steele dossier when they can't put food on the table or find a job that pays a living wage. No one cares about what it says on page 347 of the Mueller report when they can't afford health insurance. A tweet from I am Cardi B. I've been reading about Bernie Sanders, and I'm really sad how we let him down in 2016. This man been fighting for equal rights, human rights for such a long time. Seeing this country become a better place been really his passion for a long time. Not a new front for a campaign. To the millionaires like Jake Tapper and Rachel Maddow who set the news agenda, the people who vote Democrat are the liberal elites who they hang out with at fancy restaurants in the New York and LA bubbles. The fair weather do-gooders who complain about Trump ad infinitum, but ask them to reach a little deeper into their very full pockets, well, that's going to be a problem. They're the ones who are happy to vote for a candidate like Joe Biden, who promises the super rich that nothing would fundamentally change if they pick him. Cardi B's interview with Sanders puts a spotlight on that hypocrisy. A tweet from Hoot Hoot Burns. While MSM continue to be triggered, Bernie actually called them out. Joe Rogan's podcast with him is at 8.4 million views. Cardi B's Instaclip with him already has 4.6 million views. He runs the table on number of individual donors and just passed Biden in NH polling. I almost said podcast when I mentioned Joe Rogan there. You guys are gonna eat me up in the comment section. I know. I'm ready for you. Just go for it. Destroy me. Murder me. But no. Really though, interviews like this need to be more common. More of this needs to be a thing. I want to see more of this. You know, screw the mainstream media. I want to see more honest, organic interviews where it's just two people talking in front of a camera. Not some interviewer with pre-selected questions and a script. I want to see real conversation. Even if I don't agree with someone like, say, Bernie Sanders, and I do not. I just want to see real conversations. I'm sick and tired of the mainstream media, and I'm sure all of you fine people are too. They suck. Anyway, to finish this article off, certain people like to brag that there is more jobs now in America, but what are they paying in these jobs? They practically pay nothing, the rapper continues. She then asks if it is possible to eliminate student loan debt because so many people are suffering, and it discourages the youth from going to college. She talks about her admiration for Franklin D. Roosevelt and the New Deal. That's the reason we have Social Security. Comfortable media elites can laugh and scoff at Bernie Cardi pairing all they want. Late-night host Jimmy Kimmel joked that the two used to work at the same club. But people listened to her. She ended the interview with a shout-out to her millions of followers, asking them to feel the burn. The talking heads of mainstream media should check their blind spots now, because they won't be laughing if their establishment bias helps put Trump back in the White House for round 2. Or maybe they will. After all, he's great for ratings. And they'll still be raking in the cash. Because the mainstream media is full of so many lies that they themselves probably don't even know what the truth sounds like anymore. It was like at the end of that one episode of the sci-fi series Farscape. The leader of the Tavleks who kidnapped Rigel thinking he was still some sort of emperor, right? Like, what did that guy say, the leader of their group? I believe he said, "Ah, yes. It's been so long since I've heard the truth. I don't recognize it anymore." Guy's name was Bekesh. Do you want to be like Bekesh? Do you want to go so long without hearing the truth that when you finally hear it again, you don't even recognize it? Do you want that to be you? That's the mainstream media. They're so used to their own lies that I bet the truth, they wouldn't even recognize it if they heard it. They've already become Bekesh. Absolutely, they've become like Bekesh. Only we don't have our very own John Crichton to come along and kick their sweet asses. But to address some of Bernie's ideas real quick, people complain about not having a living wage, not realizing that a minimum wage is actually what's at fault here. Because surprise, surprise, you raise the minimum wage and suddenly companies aren't actually making enough money to justify that minimum wage. You're creating unemployment and layoffs because they can't afford to consistently pay that amount with that many employees. And even when they do, raise the wages, businesses that don't comply with the minimum wage, of course they get paid crap. Because the value of everything is constantly increasing. Taxation and bills and debt and personal debt make it so that living wages become impossible. Here's a tip, just something to consider before I end the video. Try making your cost of living less. And I don't mean move to a nicer neighborhood that's more affordable. I mean literally spend less money. Have fewer luxuries. Get into a tiny house. Have a smaller living space. There's all kinds of things you can do so that the wage becomes acceptable. You're just not willing to do it. Because you're a selfish first world American who is suffering from first world problems. Anyway. Peace!